Well, howdy, and welcome to our session on Dell PowerProtect Data Manager for AI. My name is Trent Whitfield. I'm the East Chief of Engineering for Technologent. We have a great session lined up for you all today. Joining me on the virtual stage are Ernesto Larios, Technologent's AI Ambassador and Principal Architect, and Mr. Peter Eck, the Senior Director of Global Sales Programs with Dell Technologies. Now, as we progress through the presentation, a quick reminder, go ahead and use that chat or that Q&A section for questions or comments. We have several folks in the background from Dell and Technologent are monitoring that chat for us. So before we hear from these fine gentlemen, our experts, and highlight the amazing partnership between Dell and Technologent, let's introduce Technologent. So at Technologent, we bridge the gap between people and technology. We empower businesses to achieve transformative outcomes. We focus on innovation, collaboration, and have an expertise that allows us to deliver tailored solutions that drive agility, efficiency, and productivity for enterprise worldwide. Now, with an engineering to sales ratio of 3 to 1, we definitely have the technical expertise to navigate you through your digital transformation journey. We're headquartered in Irvine, California, but have offices and resources across the country, including Las Vegas, Denver, Nashville, and New York. But to meet our needs of many of our customers, we also have a global presence to ensure that white glove approach stretches around the world. I'm currently taking nominations and resumes for people that want to go to Australia and check out that data center. So hit me up on the chat if you're interested in that. So of all the technical and non-technical certifications we have, one of the items that I'm most proud of is our WBNC status. We take pride in being woman-owned, and it allows us to do some truly awesome things in some amazing accounts. From a technical strategic aspect, we focus primarily in 4 main disciplines. So within the data discipline, we focus on getting the most value out of your data through information strategy sessions, compliance and privacy workshops, data protection assessments, and incorporating analytics and observability into your environment. Within the cloud discipline, we focus on the physical, software, and cloud-related assets that provide the services, structure, and storage of your applications, data, and databases. Now, be it private, public, hybrid, multi-cloud, or even that traditional 3-tier infrastructure, we focus in those areas here. Within our security discipline, we focus on protecting your organization from the core to the edge, with solutions spanning secure operations, network and infrastructure protection, data access, identity management, endpoint security, and unified endpoint management. The people, technology, and processes are analyzed and optimized within this discipline. And of course, we have a huge artificial intelligence discipline. So within this discipline, we focus on utilizing AI-driven automation and intelligence to enhance operations with AI-powered automation and LLM capabilities. So enabling proactive decision-making, workflow optimization, and adaptive scalability. Now, crossing each of the disciplines we just introduced are the various practices that work hand in hand with our clients and strategic partners to bring inspiration and innovation to every environment. So here we see just some of the many examples of the capabilities within each practice. With our proven methodology, best-of-breed tools, and extensive product certifications, we help you and your IT organization architect, integrate, and maintain a secure, high-performing business. Our technical experts that represent each of these practices are here to make the uncomfortable journey of transition and change comfortable for you. So to put it simply, we're here to help you and your business achieve your goals. So today we'll be focusing on Guardian AI practice, the generative AI practice, and with a key partnership from Dell, we've built a game-changing data protection tool that will be used in Dell's AI factory. So to go into that more detail, it's my pleasure to welcome a truly amazing man and colleague, a true friend of technology and a true partner, Mr. Peter Eck from Dell Technologies. Peter, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Trent, and thank you for that fantastic introduction. Your check is in the mail, so thank you. By way of quick introduction, Peter Eck, Senior Director within Dell Technologies and part of our data protection business unit leadership team. My team, we focus around our key data mover technologies, but with an emphasis on business development, looking at our solutions and how we align and embed within the emerging requirements of market and customers. And that's the context with which and how Guardian came to be. And I want to provide you a little bit of context because I think this is important and frames the relationship between Dell Technologies and Technologent. So if you go back to the release of ChatGPT and the fascination that everybody engaged, the revolution in many ways, all of the competitors in our space were quick to declare that they were adding AI to their product. We took the stance and said, well, why don't we figure out first what's the problem that we could solve with AI? And is that a problem that matters to customers? And what we found through extensive interviews with customers themselves, with developers, and particularly this is where Technologent come in, the key issue impacting adoption or planned projects for AI stemmed at the executive level from, is this a safe and auditable artificial intelligence? Consistently, and we realized that was what we heard consistently, and we realized that that needed to be our focus. And it was in this exploratory phase that Technologent, who are already a fantastic Titanium global partner, we actually hosted one of our events in their offices and had our first meeting with John Keller and Ernesto and the team, and realized that their vision and indeed their excellence in skills and the overall just, and I put in air quotes, doability, was a huge differentiator. We were meeting a lot of people who consultatively could tell us about what you should think about artificial intelligence, but Ernesto and team were building and deploying, and that was a significant differentiator right there. And we realized that in our vision of taking and bringing our PowerProtect Data Manager and the latest release, 1919, of what we were referencing, one of our great strengths is the breadth and extent of all of the APIs that we've published. And think about, our rich history. We've got 30 years of different features, functions, not just, and all those capabilities on all aspects of governance, compliance, cybersecurity, and auditability. And together, we realized that we shared a common vision for the question of not just the safe and auditable AI, but in the context, how do you bring those dimensions, those vectors of data protection that I just described, across every layer of the AI infrastructure stack and the applications? And the recognition and what Technologent and the team understood is that there are a set of unique approaches that are needed for this unique workload. What you're going to see a demonstration of shortly builds on, and I'm not going to drain this slide, but builds out the modeling that we have done about what it is to protect an application, an artificial intelligence application, and recognizing the different risks and interdependencies that might create. And there's a real specificity in the layers that we're talking through here. So, the threats to AI and, our journey with Technologent has seen us go from, well, somewhat charming and naive to genuinely aware and, if not concerned, and how do we deal with those? How do we bring those scary things and deal with them for you as customers and partners? Just touching on this, data poisoning is a huge issue, but it's data poisoning done by state actors, by criminal gangs, by individuals who are internal to an organization, but themselves might be blackmailed or trying to do things from a criminal enterprise perspective themselves. There are all sorts of things from targeting corruption of the training data, adapting to the cybersecurity moves that might be put in place, deceptive data, poisoning with delayed activation. I shared these because informed allows us to make better decisions and better choices. And it's this level of awareness that itself is expressed in Guardian, which we're going to go through in just a moment. So you're going to see, and Ernesto's going to drive what we've built. Fundamentally, and how this is working, all of these data governance functions are in the AI, but it's purpose-built. It leverages key pieces. So how to think about this? We are taking all of this functionality to the artificial intelligence. We're not taking some LLM and embedding it into our product, because at the end of the day, that's too difficult to append to the dynamic app and interdependencies and infrastructure that tomorrow will bring. We also recognize, and an area of great technology and expertise, is that development teams and the ecosystem that they lean on, everything is driven via APIs. And we'll talk, and Ernesto will talk about the amazing development times and how quickly we can turn around things because of this foundation. A key principle is much like our kids. I can't make every decision for them, but I can do my best to train them to make good decisions. And that's the principle in which we recognize that artificial intelligence is going to do things that you may not have expected, or that people will try to compromise the AI into doing things that you never expected. Ensuring that you have built and put the right guardrails in place, and so that as the AI propagates, as it grows, it continues to be that paramount safe and auditability of the organization it's protecting. We recognize that we'll talk about agentic AI, which is both huge promise, but let's be realistic, potentially raises significant threats. So with that, I'll pause, Trent, and allow you to segue us here and introduce Ernesto in a moment.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Sorry, it took me a second to get off mute and still share back. I apologize. So I'll tell you what, let's formally introduce Dell PowerProtect Data Manager for AI.
What if you could deploy and adopt AI safely, simply, and efficiently? Dell Technologies partnered with Technologent to demonstrate this potential through PowerProtect Data Manager and the Dell AI Factory. Imagine implementing AI solutions with confidence. Utilizing PowerProtect Data Manager's APIs, you can automate AI protection. Leveraging AI safely, reports and full auditability, ensuring compliance, governance, recoverability, and resiliency for the Dell AI Factory. Simplifying AI complexity. Maintain a seamless connection that secures your systems. Mitigating risk. Make your AI both secure and auditable. Imagine ensuring the security of your AI environments. PowerProtect Data Manager enabled for AI, demonstrating what's possible. Dell Technologies and Technologent.
Awesome. Well, Peter Eck is definitely one of my favorite people. He's got that awesome East Texas accent, right, that we all love. But let's introduce one of my very good friends, a phenomenal, intelligent person, Mr. Ernesto Laros with Technologent. Ernesto, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, Trent, and thank you all for attending our session today. Peter, thanks for the great introduction earlier on the origin story leading up to what we have internally codenamed Guardian. That's our internal code name for it. And Trent, thanks for bringing this up on screen. So just to set the stage for those of you watching right now, in the background, you're going to see Dell PowerProtect Data Manager. And right there in the middle, as an overlay, you're going to see what we've codenamed Guardian. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've built Guardian and the capabilities that it has. And while I'm talking, this is a recorded demo. It's about 7 minutes long. I encourage you guys to use the chat function to ask any questions you might have, whether they're technical, strategic, return on investment, business outcomes, whatever comes to mind. If you want to ask some questions, I'm going to be here for the next little while to be able to answer those. So as you can see, the demo is kind of walking through some of the functionality of Guardian, but I did want to highlight while we're watching this, as Peter mentioned, we did not go towards an approach of stuffing a large language model inside of PowerProtect Data Manager, and there were several reasons for that. One of the opinionated design principles that we have here at Technologent within our AI practice is that trust, risk, security management, speed, and adaptability have never been more important in our industry than they are now in this modern era of generative AI. In order to achieve all of those things, especially the speed and agility part of it, we worked with the Dell team, and this is the design philosophy that we ended up with. So behind the scenes, Peter mentioned a lot of API work. So we've been working with Kubernetes and microservices and loosely coupled architecture for quite a while now. And in fact, a lot of the team members who are in our AI practice now actually came from our cloud and automation and DevOps practices where they were engineering around Kubernetes and microservices quite a bit. So it was a natural segue to how we architect most of our AI-enabled applications. Moving away from the design philosophy and the technical architecture in the background, I'm just going to touch on some of the capabilities of codename Guardian. And as you're seeing on screen, there is a multimodality that the Guardian application has. And what does that mean? It means that from a human perspective, you can interact with the system using natural language, text, voice, or vision. And the system is able to intelligently understand that. Nowadays, in 2025, having those features, most of you guys have been on the internet, you've seen ChatGPT, you've seen other commercial offerings from Claude and Microsoft and Google, and all across the board, there's commercial offerings that kind of have those features. So what makes this particular application that you're seeing on screen unique is its contextual awareness while still being loosely coupled. And what that means is that the application that you're seeing there in the middle can exist separate from Dell PowerProtect Data Manager and vice versa, but still have a tight contextual coupling. And what we mean by that is that codename Guardian has access to a retrieval augmented generation database. It's a vector database that's been preloaded with a ton of really valuable best practices, Dell documentation, and the ins and outs of the nuanced way of protecting enterprise AI. In addition to that, it has API integrations into automations that have been pre-built and come batteries included with PowerProtect Data Manager. On top of that, we have developed sort of a personality and a responsibility into the application so that when it's working with a human, it knows what its intent is. And its intent is to have trusted and auditable AI. So when a user interacts with the system, asks a question, or quite frankly, might be stumped, the application you're seeing here has suggestions that are applicable in the context of that user, what they're trying to do, and where they might be in their journey. Taking one step back a little bit, as to how we've developed that. And I'll be oscillating between technical, design, and outcomes as I continue this conversation. We talked about retrieval augmented generation, and people have heard this term RAG, where you can think of it sort of like an open book test when you were back in high school, where the teacher would give you the exam book and the test, and you were able to look in the exam book while you were answering the questions on the test. I like to use that example when explaining how modern LLMs leverage RAG to help reduce hallucinations, help bring modern or nuanced context into their responses with the human, and ultimately how they provide a better user experience. So that's the RAG part of it. Now, how are we enabling this advanced level of automation? Early on, I would say in about late 2023, 24, early 24, we here internally with our Applied AI Innovation Lab at Technologent, we started developing agents and agentic workflows or agent-driven workflows. And that is some of the technology that's behind the scenes. And I'll just differentiate real quick in case this question comes up. When we talk about an agent workflow or agentic workflow, and then agentic AI, you can think of it like a sliding scale of automation, where agentic AI is full-blown AI running the show. We didn't want that level of automation here, given that it's still relatively cutting edge, but we wanted more control. And so we decided upon agentic workflows so that the LLM can help automate user functions by asking verbally or through text, hey, can you check to see if my AI is secure? And the system will do that. Or can you give me audit logs? And the system will do that. And how do we control that in the agentic workflow? Well, we've combined the heuristic variability that makes generative AI so powerful, that dynamic nature of the technology. We have married that with deterministic workflows. And I think deterministic workflows are what most of the folks on the call today have been used to working with probably, the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years, where we write down the set of instructions that we want our business process or our applications to follow in terms of our business process, our rule sets. And we've combined that level of structure and reliability with the generative aspects of Gen AI. And on top of that, we have added integrations to role-based access control. Commercial generative AI is great for, every, outside of business. But when we're talking about enterprise-grade generative AI, it has to be safe. It has to be auditable. It has to accurately represent the goals, missions, and policies of your enterprise. And we've built that from day one. In every line of code that we've written here in the application, in our philosophy from a design perspective, and putting the human first, middle, and last, sort of like a layered sandwich, if you will, to ensure that in the enterprise, when we're rolling out generative AI powered applications, we are maintaining a level of responsibility, trust, and accountability to the safety of our enterprise. I'm going to pause here and just check in with Trent or with Peter. Has there any questions popped up that you guys want to just throw at me?
Hey, Ernesto, one of the questions that we get a lot is time frame. How long have y'all been working on this? We talked to, Peter talked about that we've had a long-standing partnership, right? Dell and Technologent, we're phenomenal together. This seems to be taking it to another level. And so can you kind of talk through the timelines and how this progressed?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, absolutely. Great question. Here in our AI practice, we've got a dedicated team, and we've got a wonderful applied AI innovation lab, actually powered by Dell. So we've been working on the generative part of Gen AI since shortly after ChatGPT launched. Now, in terms of artificial intelligence in general, and I'm talking about machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, neural networks. More people are calling now traditional AI. Our experience goes back into the early 2000s in projects like that, Trent. And I'm not sure if that's the way you wanted to take the question, Trent, if you wanted to talk about like our depth in the realm of artificial intelligence and generative AI, our investments in there, or were you looking more towards a question around how quickly and agilely we can build these type of applications?
Yeah, the latter half, and specifically even around the Guardian PPDM story as well.
This is a great story. I think, and Peter touched on this earlier. When we were approached with the question of that Peter kind of touched on earlier, and we were asked to start building, we took up a product mindset first, as we always do, and we made sure we had identified the questions of why. We ask why a lot here at Technologent. That I know Trent's very well aware of this. We ask why a lot, and with working with the Dell team, we were able to get very crystallized answers early on in the process. And once we'd identified the why we were doing this, what outcomes we wanted, what guardrails and safety measures we were looking for, and what we wanted the user experience, which was a trust-based experience that was fully transparent and communicative with the human to computer interaction. Once we'd done all of that, we let our engineering team loose in our innovation lab. And this wasn't a solo effort, I should add. There was a really good pairing between the Dell engineering team and the Technologent team. It was phenomenal. And we had a really great time working together on that initial sprint. I think the question you really want me to answer here is the actual duration. Isn't that right, Trent?
Yeah, I'm beating around the bush for you, Ernesto.
Well, I was saving the best for last. Actually, what you're seeing on screen right now is an older version of what was codenamed Guardian before. And what you're seeing on screen right now took us 3 weeks, start to finish.
Yeah, I'd like to come over the top a little bit, because when we took Guardian and first started to show it internally and to a select group of customers, the reaction was consistent. This is amazing. We've never seen anything like this. Then when we explained that, yeah, this is what, and with Technologent skills, we were able to produce in 3 weeks, and not wanting to put everyone on the spot, Ernesto, but with the improvements in the AI ecosystem since, we can, air quotes, turn this around even faster, staggeringly so. But it just speaks to the dynamism that is AI development. It speaks to the need for intelligent partners like Technologent to be able to produce from an IT perspective, unheard speeds. The difference that I want to emphasize is that this isn't a production that has things falling off it as it increasingly runs out of control. No, this is safety and auditability by design, all the guardrails that Ernesto has been talking about. And as the AI propagates, we teach it to make good decisions. It's a fundamental difference. The speed with which we built this also allows us to easily incorporate whatever unique processes that you as a customer are going to have. Everybody's got a slightly different variation on their postures for security, potentially on data governance and compliance. Guardian, our approach allows us to so quickly embed and embrace those processes, that corporate compliance initiatives into the AI. at speeds that seem magical.
Yeah, Peter, that was a really good point you just made in terms of our design philosophy and how it benefits the customers in the community. Um, with that API first and loosely coupled architecture, our solution is able to meet the customer where they're at. And whether that be from a written policy and compliance perspective, a distributed data center layout from an infrastructure perspective, or from a tooling perspective, where they might have a variety of best of breed applications and products along the mix with the high quality Dell products that we're talking about here. And that ability to integrate really, I think, is something that's important in today's modern enterprise when we're talking. So I think that was a really excellent point, Peter.
I think what's powerful about this as well is someone can utilize this tool and not know anything about backups, PPDM, things of that nature, right? Y'all did a phenomenal job of designing this. I know you got a funny story, Ernesto, but y'all did a phenomenal job of designing this, not for backup experts, right? But just for basically a general type of person, which I think you did a phenomenal job with that.
Yeah, I don't know. So, Peter, do you want to tell the story or should I tell the story?
No, go ahead, Ernesto.
Okay, so normally Peter takes this part of the story, and it's aimed to embarrass me. So, and I'm okay with that.
No false modesty, Ernesto.
Yeah. So, in full transparency to the folks who are on the call today, I didn't really know much about data protection whatsoever. My professional background hadn't really given me the opportunity to dive deep into the technology, the processes, the tool sets, and that lived in that ecosystem. And in fact, in full transparency, I hadn't really ever operated the Dell PowerProtect Data Manager application that you're seeing on screen right now. And I frequently, as we were developing codenamed Guardian here that you're seeing on screen over those 3 weeks, me and my team, we actually frequently used Guardian, the app, the AI, to help us develop tighter integration couplings with Dell PowerProtect Data Manager to automate and discover the right processes, the right procedures, the right steps that have to be taken when you're either identifying the infrastructure you're going to protect, establishing the policies, running the backups, validating the data, looking at the audit logs, and then ultimately doing mock recoveries. Yeah, I was pretty clueless when this came about. So Trent's point about closing that skills gap, that's actually one of the business values that we feel pretty strongly about with this coupling of the technology and then the long-lasting capabilities and in leadership that Dell PowerProtect Data Manager has in the market space, is that for in an example, Trent, I think that Peter gave the other day was imagine if you're one of your IT leaders or business leaders at the firm, and there's an incident that arises where you can't necessarily get not an emergency, just an incident, and you need to get specific facts about your risk posture, your security posture, your data protection posture, and you don't have your data protection specialists or your engineering team on hand. You can think about if you're like at the executive level and you need that information right away. And you're kind of like me, who hasn't had a lot of hands-on exposure to the actual platform. Guardian can come in and fill that skills gap right away. You can ask it. You can literally talk to your infrastructure and ask it a variety of questions. Because of the integrations that we've built into the system, when you ask questions about your infrastructure, it's not just siloed in Dell PowerProtect Data Manager, but there's integrations to other parts of your Dell AI Factory and the other parts to your Dell AI systems, as well as your entire data center and enterprise, if you so wish.
And the rags that we've built, Ernesto, and I particularly, I've always said to our engineers around PowerProtect Data Manager, done a phenomenal job, just the overall documentation and frankly, an extremely rich repository of knowledge-based articles that Guardian is able to use as part of the basis, and why it can be so effective in, as Ernesto described it, being that outcome-based partner. Tell me what I need to know, and with the fun that you can have, as we can demonstrate. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, or put this just into 5 bullets. The flexibility is fantastic.
Yeah, looking at let's talk a little bit about that, Peter, about that RAG, because this is, I think, a challenge that a lot of enterprises are having out there. I'm going to bring the concept of RAG directly into the focal point of our conversation today, and this might be a little bit too 101 for some of the folks on the call, so I'll go quickly through it, but I do want to be thorough. You've got a set of documentation, articles, unstructured data in your enterprise today. Hopefully, because these documents and this unstructured data is providing you business value today, hopefully you have some kind of data protection policies, tools, and technology to safeguard that information, that critical IP inside of your enterprise. And in case of any kind of disaster or emergency, the ability to recover it securely. And then thirdly, if an incident or even without an incident, you have the ability to audit the chain of custody of your documentation, the truthfulness and accuracy, and the change logs over the course of time. So you have that today. Now, how do you bring it into AI? How do you bring it to the users who are using these generative AI systems? Well, there are processes. We're going to call two processes, like the data pipeline and then the model pipeline. Essentially, these are technology, tools, and people moving your data that is already, let's say, hopefully secure, protected, and we're going to select portions of your data that make sense for your outcomes of your AI. The last thing you want to do is just blindly throw all your data into some huge vector database and then ask your a single LLM to just be super smart. That's not going to be successful. There is a data curation process. Now let's talk about data protection throughout that process. You have your big stack of data on one side. As you move to the right and you're curating those data sets, we do transform them. So if you've got a repository of 100 gigs, terabyte of documents, the next iteration, the next step in that workflow, it's going to be a curated set of that data. Once we get that curated, and that curated set needs to be labeled, versioned, audited, and tracked as well. As a machine learning engineer myself, I know the importance of being able to draw a thread or a label between my RAG data and my production AI application. That's critically important. So you want to have that data protection all the way throughout your entire pipeline. After you've gotten to that level, that step of your data, you're then going to do a couple more transformations and end up in a vector database, or maybe some kind of graph database if you're using more advanced functions. And then there's some prompt tuning and some integration development work that happens between that particular new data source and your AI application. So when we were building out codename Guardian, as you see on screen here, we followed a lot of those best practice philosophies in terms of our pipelining. And what was really interesting, Peter, I know we've talked about this, is that we frequently saw this sort of virtuous cycle where we were bringing AI, we were bringing power protection to AI to then enable us to protect our Dell AI factory, which then in turn continued this kind of circle of innovation and improvement. It was a cool moment.
And underpins, how we see, this, and I think virtuous cycle is a great way of describing it, that the design philosophy of bringing our feature functions to the AI and being able to express them in such a rich set of ways affords you that ability to create a virtuous circle, right? And as we've demonstrated, use it to inform on the Dell AI factory, and from there, train further the model, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the iterations that are going to underpin every AI zone development, right?
Well, hopefully so. I think, Peter, when we would reach out to our customers in the enterprise, I think we're still seeing, different as the generative AI general market matures, right? Sort of like the tide rising. A lot of our customers are rising with that tide. We're all becoming a little bit more AI literate, so to speak. It's conversations in our homes, conversations at work. We hear it on the radio. It's in our news feed. But our focus obviously is how that's impacting the enterprise. And I think in the enterprise, there's different levels of AI literacy, capabilities and skills. And what we found, I know, Peter, we were talking about this the other day, is understanding your ROI, understanding your GRC, and making sure that you can trust and secure your systems. Those are some of the biggest blockers outside of like just general engineering skill sets that we've seen. And that's sort of where we're trying to do in our collaboration, Peter, right? We're trying to help our customers break through some of these barriers so that they can reap the benefits of the technology much sooner.
So I note, and there's actually a great segue there. So there's a question in chat from Vidya about, hey, we've already invested in Gen AI solutions from public cloud. Where does Guardian fit in?
Sure, that's a great question, and without knowing the specifications or the details of that level of investment and what that necessarily means, I can talk a little bit about the design of Guardian. We've designed Guardian to work because it's driven itself by generative AI. We've designed it to work locally in your data center. If you're, let's see, if you have a Dell AI factory and you have the GPUs in there, and you're running your own local models, it can integrate there. And we've built everything with open standards. So it's very easy to also integrate to a cloud provider if you have because a lot of our customers do have hybrid setups where we've got workloads on-prem and in the cloud. So if your inferencing engines are out in the cloud, Guardian has been set up to be able to switch dynamically whenever you want, really, to the best model of choice. And there's configurations in the background that allow you to do that. So
yeah, Vidya in the chat said just supposition Vertex AI on Google Cloud,
right,
as a specific example, and that's a perfect softball for you, Ernesto.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great use case, and Vertex AI on GCP, Bedrock on AWS, even some of the Azure solutions in the cloud. I would say the key point is if your AI inferencing engine has an endpoint and it's to the open AI specification, which the industry has adopted, then the Guardian's set up to already integrate at that level. You need your keys and maybe a slight tweak on your end just to allow that inbound and outbound networking connection. But that's a great use case.
Well, Video, we recognize that customers are going to be, the number of choices 6 months ago versus number of choices today, it feels like an exponential leap. By design, our intent, and as we've said, a strong focus on APIs, and as well, great focus on the promise and threat of agentic is part of the journey here, and part of the reason that we have this great consultative and dependent relation with Technologent is we're able to assess these scenarios from Technologent and people like Ernesto, Sean, Nick, really know how to build these things, right, and how to use them. And then we can also lean in on, you know, what constitutes best practice, what cyber threats might look like. How do we ensure that we've got, and Ernesto came up with the term a time capsule of the, not just the AI app itself, but all of those interdependencies that you would need to be able to recreate. How can we recover, ideally, a known, good, unpoisoned copy for some immutable source? And that's what we in Dell Technologies are able to provide. So it's a fantastic balance, fantastic combination.
No, that's perfect, Peter. And Ernesto, thank you for walking us through. I know live demos are always difficult, especially you're even on site doing this, so appreciate you jumping into it. But some of the questions we saw even during the recording of this were such simple things. Go ahead and protect my AI. What's wrong with this? Really phenomenal job on this. So Peter, again, thank you for the partnership here. Ernesto, great job on that side. But let's talk about next steps. So Peter and Ernesto, they covered a ton today, but with a short window, we really only skimmed the surface. So I invite you to continue the conversation with us. Let us know if you'd like to focus on a certain aspect, or drill deeper in a specific use case, etc. And let's discuss what a demo and POC looks like in your environment. And I'm happy to help make that connection with the proper team members on any topic that interests you. So don't hesitate to reach out. My email is on the screen. And as a surprise, come meet the experts at Dell Tech World. Ernesto will be there. I'll be there. Peter will be there. Hans and Keenan, who have been monitoring the chat, will be there. It's a very exciting time. So hope to see you guys out there. But yeah, coming out and meet the experts. It's going to be fun. We'll be talking a lot about Dell's AI Factory, how we're protecting it, all that good stuff. I'll do one last check for the chat if there's any questions on there, any Q&A. Ernesto, you see anything on the chat?
I don't, but I'll add something real quick in that we've got a couple of really big surprises for DTW lined up with Peter and his team over there that we didn't show on the webinar today. It's some really cool stuff. Nick and Sean, who are on the call today, have been working really hard on some cool new features that we'll be showcasing at DTW for the first time, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to nerding out with a lot of folks and hope you all join us.
I'll be the one standing there with just a confused look on their face, but I'll be applauding.
Yeah, we can't wait to see everybody out there, Trent. Our entire practice that's going. Sean and Nick will be there, as I mentioned. We're really looking forward to showing off some of the cool stuff and meeting the customer base.
Awesome. But with that, I want to thank Peter and Ernesto for joining us today and providing such a great overview. It's truly been amazing to watch you and your teams tout one another flags and build on this amazing partnership between Dell and Technologent. You all have proven the sky is the limit. So I wanted to formally
thank you, Trent. So, thank you, Ernesto and Nick, Sean. You guys have been phenomenal partners, and I'm just so pumped about where we're going directionally.
Yeah, amen to that. But yeah, and thank you to all our guests. We really appreciate you all spending some time out of your busy day. But I hope to see you at Dell World where we continue the conversation. So, thank you, be safe, and God bless.